Edward Teller was a theoretical physicist born in Budapest on January 15, 1908, and died in Stanford, California on September 9, 2003. Teller worked at various institutions and universities across the United States throughout his long and controversial career. Teller became a leading voice on the Atomic Energy Commission, and his most notable achievement was the creation of the hydrogen bomb. The most famous of Teller's inventions was the hydrogen bomb in 1952. Throughout the rest of his career, Teller advanced the field of nuclear weapons and energy. Teller also proposed ideas for peaceful uses for nuclear bombs, including Project Plowshare. Later in his career, Teller had many ideas for the creation of defensive weapons for the newly formed Strategic Defense Initiative in the United States. Edward Teller was a controversial futurist. Teller was viewed by many as a military hawk who fought against disarmament with the belief that advanced weapons technology like the hydrogen bomb kept the United States safe. On the flip side, Teller was also an advocate for peace through a world government and argued for further openness between nations on nuclear information. The following slides will take a look at the most important projects that Edward Teller took part in during his life. These projects will go in order starting with the motivation behind and the creation of the hydrogen bomb, followed by controversial geographic projects including Project Plowshare and Project Chariot. The last two major projects of Teller's life include his work with nuclear reactors and the Strategic Defense Initiative. During the Cold War era, the United States was provoked by Soviet military advancements to create a hydrogen bomb. Teller believed the creation of these bombs was critical for national security. Teller and other supporters of the hydrogen bomb convinced President Truman of the importance of the hydrogen bomb to the point that in 1950 Truman gave the hydrogen bomb research highest priority. The first hydrogen bomb was successfully tested in November 1952. This test was followed less than a year later by the Soviets, who successfully tested a hydrogen bomb in August 1953. Further testing by both nations raised awareness of the hazards of nuclear testing and led to negotiations about test bans at the United Nations Disarmament Commission in May 1955. The 1955 United Nations Disarmament Commission was followed by further meetings on test bans throughout the Cold War era. Teller strongly opposed test bans throughout the Cold War era for two main reasons. The first was because Teller believed the tests could offer new knowledge, and secondly because Teller did not believe the Soviet Union would abide by test ban rules. Edward Teller believed that there were better ways to solve the arms control conflicts rather than the proposed full-out test bans. Teller argued that democracy and secrecy were incompatible, and in his article The Feasibility of Arms Control and the Principle of Openness, Teller argues that greater information flow and cooperation among nations would be the more manageable arms control solution. Aside from future nuclear cooperation, Teller also supported new peaceful uses for nuclear bombs. Teller focused on the great strides that were being made towards non-radioactive bombs, also known as clean bombs. These new clean bombs in the future could be used for peaceful purposes, such as digging canals, extracting resources from the earth, and creating a better life for many people. One of the peaceful projects that Teller undertook was Project Plowshare. This program was meant to use nuclear explosions to excavate large masses of dirt and land for the creation of artificial harbors and canals. Teller believed this was possible at a very low risk factor because instead of using regular nuclear bombs, the project would use these new clean bombs. Motives for Project Plowshare were based around the growing worldwide pressures toward the banning of nuclear weapons testing. Theoretical physicists like Teller looked for new ways to test weapons that would be exempt from any test ban treaty. Therefore, Teller and other physicists turned their thinking toward projects that had industrial and public works applications using peaceful explosions. Project Chariot was the first plowshare operation created by the Atomic Energy Commission and championed by Edward Teller. Devised in 1958, the plan was to create an instant harbor on the coast of Alaska using thermonuclear bombs. The image here shows the 5 explosions scaled down version of the Project Chariot harbor. The original plan was to use 6 bombs. The creation of the harbor was only one objective of Project Chariot. Project Chariot also focused around better understanding of nuclear cratering, the effects of radioactivity on the biosphere, and to show off the possibilities its geographical engineering techniques offered. In essence, the AEC was going to both try and show its experiment at the same time. Noisy protests from Eskimos, Alaskan scientists, biologists, and conservationists led to Project Chariot being canceled in 1962. These protests were due mainly to environmental issues and destroyed Edward Teller's idea of using nuclear explosions for peaceful geographical engineering. This also ruined Project Plowshare, which reached its peak in 1962 and failed to conduct any further experiments after 1968. Nuclear reactors were another peaceful project that Teller championed throughout his career. A supporter of nuclear energy and openness towards nuclear information, Teller realized the only way nuclear energy would gain acceptance was if it was proven safe to the public. Teller strongly believed that nuclear energy was the safest, cheapest, and cleanest way to supply big countries with energy in the future. Teller's plans for nuclear energy were greeted with further letdown by the destructive nuclear accident at 3 Mile Island on March 28, 1979. This accident and others like it caused nuclear energy to never gain the support of the public. Teller still refuted opponents of nuclear power, but it took a toll on his health. Teller suffered a heart attack in 1979, which curbed his continuing support for nuclear energy. The Strategic Defense Initiative was proposed by Ronald Reagan in 1983. Also known as Star Wars because of the popular movie, the overall plan of SDI was to use space-based weapon systems to protect the United States from ballistic missile attacks. Teller took part in the creation of ballistic missile defense, and although this support ostracized him from the scientific community, he continued to promote SDI with full zeal throughout the 1980s. Excalibur was a defense technology the SDI focused on. Excalibur was an X-ray laser that would carry a tremendous amount of energy as it beamed down to Earth to heat up and vaporize incoming enemy missiles. Teller worked on this project at Livermore Laboratory. In the end, the project was deemed a failure. It was too expensive, had no time frame, and was out of the reach of current technology at the time. The concept of Brilliant Pebbles was to populate space with intelligent small kinetic warheads, which would be guided independently to knock out missiles before they reached the United States. Brilliant Pebbles could be turned into brilliant eyes with the right technological equipment and could monitor troop movements, pollution, traffic, and even predict weather forecasts. Teller played another crucial role in Brilliant Pebbles' promotion, but once again it was not accepted by the SDI and cancelled in 1994. In conclusion, Edward Teller was one of the most important scientists of the 20th century. Teller changed the face of the Cold War with the invention of the hydrogen bomb. Teller was influential to the advancement of nuclear weapons and never lost his enthusiasm towards finding new uses for the bombs he created.